Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike! Okay, we are back. This is Ryan with Gridiron Grinder. Along with me, as always, is my buddy James. How's it going tonight, James?
Going good.
Well, heck yeah, man. So, as you know, tonight is the last of our four-part series in which we're looking at all the different divisions across the NFL. And so we started by looking at the AFC and NFC South. Then we moved to the West. Last week we did the East, and now tonight we're going to wrap it up by looking at the North. And so, if for anybody who's watching, if you like this and you want to see some of the past ones we did, you can go ahead and pull us up on YouTube, or you can go to gridirongrinder.com. It's all pretty easy to find. But with all that being said, let's jump into the AFC North. Why don't you give me your projections, James?
All right, so as no surprise, I have Baltimore winning this division at 14-2.
Oh shit, 14-2. Okay.
Then I have Pittsburgh at 8-8, Cleveland at 7-9, and Cincinnati at 6-10.
Okay. So in terms of the order, I'm with you. I was, I guess, a little more conservative. I've got Baltimore winning it at 10-6. I don't know. It's hard to repeat such a monster season, but if anybody could do it, it could be them. They do got a shit ton of talent on that team. But I've got them actually tied with Pittsburgh at 10-6. Baltimore getting the tiebreaker. I've got Pittsburgh making the playoffs with one of the wild cards. And then I've got Cleveland at 8-8, and I actually have them sneaking in thanks to that additional wild card spot. And then last but not least, I got Cincinnati at 5-11. So we got the order the same, but the records are pretty far off. Why don't we start off just with Baltimore? Like I said, 14-2 was phenomenal last year. Tell me what you like about these guys.
All right, Baltimore, I like everything about this team. I think this team is quite possibly the most balanced team in the entire NFL. They have a defense that is just got ridiculously better in this offseason. I think they added another threat at running back. Even though they cut Earl Thomas in training camp, I think that this defense is still phenomenal. They drafted Patrick Queen at linebacker, who I absolutely love, and I actually like him to win defensive rookie of the year. Sorry, and also defensive rookie of the year and rookie of the year. Now, so with the reason why I see him winning defensive rookie of the year, I mean, you have Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, and Justin Madubuike on that line, on that defensive line, which will help him be able to be free to make plays. They also have rookie linebacker Malik Harrison, who I think is pretty good.
Yep.
He's basically he'll be able to have huge tackle numbers, some splash plays in coverage, and as a blitzer. And Baltimore, you got to remember, last year they blitzed the most out of all the teams in the league.
Gotcha.
And I think using Patrick Queen in that role will make him stand out more.
Yeah, he'll tack in a couple sacks to the number of tackles he picks up, and it'll just put him over the edge because, it's just that much more attention that he'll get. Yeah.
And the offense, what they have on offense, I think it comes close to rivaling Kansas City as the best offense in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this team were to run the table in the regular season. That's how good I think this team is.
Okay. So I got him at the top two, but I put him at 10-6. My whole thing is just that I think it's very hard to repeat a monster record like 14-2. It's hard to kind of like sneak up on anybody like they sort of did last year. And then I also kind of look at what's going on with Lamar Jackson and, Tennessee slowed him down big time in the playoffs. And, maybe some other teams caught wind of that and they figured out maybe how to slow him down this year. If that's the case, I think it could drastically affect this team. I think a lot of it runs right through him. And I'm not saying he's the only guy because, I'm a huge fan of Mark Ingram. And honestly, I was a little bit bummed when they draft Dobbins just because, I thought it was nice for Ingram to finally get a workhorse role. But I get it. It made sense. He had some nagging injuries going into the playoffs. And why the heck not get richer at the position when you could? I think Dobbins was a steal for them. They got a solid offensive line. They should be able to just run it down people's throats all year long again. I think for them to get to 14-2, which could happen, I think Lamar Jackson has to take a step up as a passer. And he did really well last year passing, but it was all driven by his ability to run the ball and basically scare teams into trying to stop him doing that. It let him open up a lot of easier pass plays. People were just freaking wide open. I mean, like Mark Andrews, every time I saw a highlight of that guy, there was nobody even around him, man. And good for them. I mean, that's, when you have that intimidating of a player on a team, that's exactly what you want, because you're changing the game. Defensively, man, yeah, without Earl Thomas, I think that hurts them a little bit, but they're just so stacked. Their secondary they got people everywhere. And really at every level now. I mimic your pick here with Patrick Queen. I've got him as Defensive Rookie of the Year. I don't have him winning overall Rookie of the Year, but I think, yeah, like you're saying, he's going to be set up for success with all the people around him. He's going to have huge tackle numbers, and they're going to get creative for him to get some sack numbers, which is really going to put him in the highlight reels, and that gives him the edge. But also, I do love the Calais Campbell pick, which I know you've heard me talk about a number of times. He has forever been one of my favorite players in the NFL. And honestly, a part of me wants to see this team win the Super Bowl this year just so he can get a ring because I think he's just that badass of a guy. He's a stand-up guy. I think, just last year he was like the Man of the Year award winner. The guy just on and off the field, he's amazing. And so, a couple other quick things looking at this team. You see right now they're only sitting at about $3.4 million in cap space. Not a big deal. Part of that is because they're taking a $15 million cap hit from letting go of Earl Thomas. Either way, the team is all in for this year, and they're stacked all across the board. I do worry of what's going to happen with them in future seasons because, they're getting the benefit of having Lamar Jackson on that rookie deal. And at some point, they're going to have to pay him. When you look at their cap situation, it makes me believe they're going to have to sacrifice some veteran players to make that happen. But I looked at their draft. They hit a lot of picks in the draft. And if they keep doing that, it takes away some of that sting when maybe the time comes that you gotta cut a seasoned veteran to make some cap space. And so I don't know. This team, they've been one of my favorite teams for a long time. I like Harbaugh. I like everything they do. They're great at building. They're great at keeping it going. And I'm excited to see what they do this year.
Yeah. One thing about Lamar Jackson, the reason why I'm not concerned about him coming into this year is because the previous season he had a terrible playoff game as well. He's had two in his entire career. He's had two bad games, and both games were the playoff game. So that's why I'm not concerned. It's a different atmosphere. He's just not ready, not necessarily what hasn't been ready for that playoff atmosphere, and that's why I don't see him taking a step back this year.
I gotcha. Yeah, and so you think some of it is just the bigger stage of the playoffs, or the heightened level of competition, whatever it may be. That's where he struggles. But until they get there, you just think he's going to run away with it. Which, hey, it could happen, man. Definitely could happen. Like I was telling you before in one of our past sessions, this team is my number 2 ranked team in terms of overall talent level, and like the top 2 teams, it's them in New Orleans, and it's them 2 by a long ways to the next team. And so, yeah, I could see them tearing it up. I just toned it down 10-6. Plus, I think Pittsburgh, with Roethlisberger coming back, it's going to make them a little bit more competitive. Hey, we'll see how it plays out. But either way, I'm excited. What do you think? You want to move on to Pittsburgh next?
Yeah, I think that's a good segue to Pittsburgh and Roethlisberger coming back. I think that was part of the problem with that team last year, and they didn't have a backup quarterback that was even serviceable really to step into that role for him. Their defense last year was phenomenal, and they only lost two starters from it. So their defense this year should still be good. I think my biggest issue with them is they didn't address the backup. They haven't addressed the backup quarterback position. So coming into this year, who knows how well Roethlisberger's elbow is gonna stand up, and if he can make it through the year.
So,
And that's where my concern is.
yeah, I guess let me just stop you right there. So, why do you think that is? Do you think that they're trying hard to see if Mason Rudolph can be that backup guy because they took some heat a couple years ago when they drafted him? Or, do they? I don't know. I'm just speculating. Why didn't they go and do something more? Because I agree with you. That team would have had a for sure playoff run if they had anything at quarterback last year. And, they're saying Roethlisberger's healthy, but until we get out there and we see him throw and get hit a couple times, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, I don't know why it is. I think you might be onto something with their trying to force it in as Mason Rudolph, because
Yeah.
there were a lot of people with the Mason Rudolph pick that absolutely loved that pick. Thought he could be a good quarterback, but he has not shown a single thing. Maybe he doesn't have the confidence, and if he was coming in as a starter, he would, like when Roethlisberger retires, maybe that will give him the confidence. But I don't know why. The only thing I know is Mike Tomlin does not finish the season. A Mike Tomlin team does not finish the season below 500.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the thing I
he's
know
been a
about
rock
this.
solid coach. Yeah.
And he doesn't get nearly enough of the accolades for that simple fact. It doesn't matter what team he has on the field, he finishes at a minimum 8-8.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's like last year's the prime example. I mean, everybody thought they were dead in the water when Roethlisberger got hurt, and that defense just like elevated to a new level, and they were relentless the whole year. I mean, they were just kicking people's asses, and so yeah, I like Tomlin. I really like Roethlisberger. I love those guys that come out of the MAC like that. Um, and I think they get the benefit. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's coming back healthy. He had subpar quarterback play last year, but he also had nagging injuries almost the whole season, which,
Yeah.
put the hamper on him. It looks like Deontay Johnson is being pegged as the breakout guy this year, but he's been injured lately, so I don't know what's going on with that. But they did go get Chase Claypool from Notre Dame, and they still have James Washington from a couple years ago. So hopefully one of those guys steps up and they actually have a couple decent weapons for Roethlisberger. I hate a tight end. I don't know if it's even worth talking about, but they brought in Eric Ebron. I'm not a big fan of him, and I don't think Pittsburgh's ever really utilized the tight end the way that they could. But they have him, and they've got I forget the other guy, but Vance McDonald. So they've got some weapons, and then running back, you got James Conner coming back. I know he's been injury prone. Behind him, they don't really have much, at least nothing proven, and so that could be a risk. But I look at this team, and I think they're very balanced, actually. As long as Roethlisberger stays healthy, I've got them a fringe top 10 on offense, and I have them in the top 10 on my defense. And I think that balance goes a long ways towards helping them overcome some issues as the season goes on. But one thing I think is important to note with them, when I looked at their roster and I was checking out their salary cap situation, I noticed that they've got 5 players that account for over 40% of their total cap space. And I thought, wow, that's a really top-heavy team. But it's working, and so until the wheels fall off, hey, do what they got to do. They're not the only team that's that top-heavy. I'll talk more about other ones tonight, but Yeah, I think they're bound to improve on 8-8 from where they were last year. The one thing that stuck out to me on the schedule too, which I'll say before we move on, is that they do have 3 of their last 4 on the road, and so I think that they need to kind of have some of it locked in before they get on that final stretch, because that could beat them up a little bit going in the playoffs, and they're going to want to be able to afford to lose a couple of those games without too many guys burning it out before the playoffs start.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we both had Cleveland next. Let's talk about these guys. So yeah, they finished 6-10 last year. I got them going to 8-8. What did you have them at? 7-9?
Yeah, 7-9. So I think with my thing with Cleveland is I don't trust their receivers. I don't trust Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
I just it's just something about them about their skill positions rubs me the wrong way. Well, I mean, their receivers and the quarterback, their running back, I like. So, I like
their running backs. They got 2 solid guys, man. They have 2 starters on like any team in the league.
Yeah, I like the addition of Austin Hooper at tight end. I think he's a huge improvement over Njoku.
Mm-hmm.
And what?
Well, they kept Njoku, so
yeah. Because last year Hooper had 800 yards in 13 games,
mm-hmm.
which is solid for a tight end. Plus he's solid at blocking, and I think.
But it was also a very pass happy offense in Atlanta. So I'm tempering my expectations for him in Cleveland, but I do agree that he was a good ad for the team.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that's what he's going to put up this year. I'm just saying if you look at Njoku never caught the ball.
Oh, and Njoku's been all hype about his athletic ability, and it's just never really played out on the field that way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I mean, they're not coming into the season with the hype they came into last season with. And I mean, at the last season, they were one of the teams that beat Baltimore, surprisingly, somehow. Yeah. I don't know how they did, and everyone was going crazy about it. But
it's division rivals, man. You never know.
Yeah, but they have to improve their defense. Their mm-hmm. defense was 22nd overall last year and 20th in points allowed, which is not good.
No, I know that their defense has work to do, but I wonder, where were they at before Myles Garrett went out, and where were they at after? Because were they at least trending in the right direction while he was still playing, before he got suspended? Because I think that's a factor. They got him back. There's some people that say he could be defensive player of the year this year. I mean, he certainly has the talent. He was, a very high draft pick, but yeah, I agree. And I think on defense, I think they have a couple key cornerstone players at various levels, but in terms of overall depth, they're extremely weak on defense.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't like the team this year. That's just bad.
Yeah, you leave it at that. Yeah.
Take a step forward, but not much of a step forward, because I think the less expectations takes a little bit of the pressure off them.
Yeah.
Because last year coming in with the expectations, and then when they started to lose, it kind of snowballed with the pressure.
Oh yeah, I think last year. Sometimes you get what you ask for when you've got that much hype going on. You got to tone it down. You got to posture it until you actually prove something. You can't be cocky like that. And I just in general don't like people that get all cocky and hyped up like that anyhow. I just think it's some of it's poor sportsmanship. And it wasn't necessarily their fault. A lot of it was the media calling it and saying, oh my God, these guys it's finally going to be the year for the Browns. And it blew up on them. But, I do like that they brought in Stefanski at head coach, and I like this team, and really, so you got them going from 6-10 to 7-9. I only have them going up to 8-8, so I've got them doing 2 more wins than last year. But I think because of that extra playoff spot and some of the weaknesses in the AFC, they could sneak in at 8-8. And I like Stefanski to get him to 8-8 because he's going to do what he did in Minnesota, where he's going to go run heavy. He's got two great running backs to do it. They beefed up the offensive line. They brought in Jack Conklin. They drafted the guy out of Alabama in the first round, Jedrick Wills. That's going to stabilize some things, open up the lanes, which, Chubb really didn't even need the lanes. He just ran all over people anyhow. But then it's going to open up the play action. And I think that that's where Mayfield is going to be highlighted this year. It's, hey, we're going to get you out, do a little bit of play action, and it's going to help open up the field a little bit more. Should help Odell Beckham get open more, and it's going to be smart with the football. Don't turn it over, because we're going to control the game clock, put our defense in a better position, and I think that gets them a couple extra wins. I really like. It's a dark horse pick, and I don't think it'll play out because 8-8 is not good enough. But I would have put Stefanski as coach of the year, and I actually have him as one of my runner-ups for it if they do get the wild card. But I don't think he can beat out Bruce Arians if Tampa Bay makes a run into the playoffs. I think those guys are going to get way too much attention, and some of this is popularity. But just talking about the running backs again, so Chubb is just going to pound it down their throats. It sounds like everything I'm hearing is they're going to get super creative with Kareem Hunt. And so I just think between the two of those guys, man, they're going to be able to just run all year long. And unless they fall way behind in a game, it's going to be manageable for them. Now, looking at the salary cap on this team, the last I checked, they were sitting at about $37.4 million in cap space, which is pretty high. And I thought, hey, you got a new head coach coming in. You've made some changes. Why not try and stretch that out a little bit more? I think maybe that they made enough moves this year. They want to see how these guys gel, and then they'll spend more next year. But I thought, geez, make another splash. You got plenty of space, and if you come out and you shock everybody and you get a couple more wins, that's a good thing. But hey, whatever reason, it didn't work out that way, and that's fine. Some of these losing teams, these sub 500 teams, they can't bring in the big name free agents, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's an issue with Cleveland. It's not exactly like a tourist destination, So, so if the football team's not rolling, why else would you go there? But yeah, so hey, I'm going from 6-10 to 8-8, and we'll see how it shakes out. Oh, and it's a bummer too that their rookie safety Delpit got hurt already. I think that was it was going to be a big pick for the defense, and that on its own is not like earth shattering for their defense, but it definitely is gonna hurt them a little bit.
And I totally agree that in the AFC 8-8 is good enough to make the playoffs. I have two teams in the playoffs this year at 8-8. I just don't see it as Cleveland.
Yeah, and so I think last week maybe it was an NFC. Which was it? Didn't you have one of the divisions with three teams getting in?
Yeah, it's the AFC West. I have Kansas City, Denver, and Vegas.
Gotcha.
I have Vegas on a tiebreaker with Pittsburgh.
Okay. So I'm not crazy putting three teams from one division in. And honestly, it's because of that extra wild card spot that it changes everything this year.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hey, let's hit up Cincy, man. Tell me what you think.
All right. So I think Cincinnati, their biggest addition obviously was drafting Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Burrow was the best quarterback in the draft, but I thought he was the safest pick. I think Tua is.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. You like Tua, didn't you?
I like Tua a lot more than I do Joe Burrow, and especially because Tua seemed to do it over a longer period of time. If you look at Joe Burrow, his Heisman year, but the year before he didn't have that spectacular year. He wasn't even on the radar. If they didn't like he's come out and said if COVID happened last year and the season was canceled and he didn't play, he wouldn't have been drafted.
Yeah.
So he had the one huge season which I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure that that was him versus that being the scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of people are calling it could have been a system thing, and that could set him up for failure. And he has gotten some pretty positive reviews so far in camp, but or in in practices. But some of that they gotta say because they spent such a high pick on the guy.
Yeah.
Some of it's reporters, and they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and so you never know. It's once they get to Sundays, we'll see how it happens.
Yeah. But ultimately, what it boiled down to with Cincinnati is if you look at their schedule, last year they had the sixth hardest schedule in the league.
Hmm.
This year they have about the 20th hardest
Okay.
schedule. And obviously, this is by my estimations of the strength of schedule, not actually something tangible, just what I see in it. And I think the easier schedule will translate into 4 more wins for them.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're pretty close. So you got them at 6-13, or I mean, 6-13, 6-10. So I've got them going to 5-11. So we were fairly close on this one. I think like you're saying, I think the wild card for them is Joe Burrow. It's if he's the real deal, that's going to make a huge difference for this team. If it was the LSU system, man, they're going to really miss Andy Dalton, which is crazy to say. So, which I mean, hey, I know not a lot of people like Andy Dalton. I kind of liked him, but it's all about managing your expectations. The expectations I had in my mind for Andy Dalton were apparently way different than anybody else. But I try to remember the guy was a second round pick, and I think he way overperformed what they were expecting when they got him in the draft. But at some point you got to win some playoff games, and it didn't happen. So I get it. I liked, with the Burrow pick, I liked that they tag teamed it up and they grabbed the wide receiver in the second round. My only concern with that is that Higgins, it looks like, man, he's fallen behind on the depth chart. And so, hey, if AJ Green stays healthy, they got Tyler Boyd. That's fine. Higgins can take his time coming up to speed. I just, in general, liked that concept of you drafted a high-profile quarterback. Now you're going out and you're getting a highly rated wide receiver, so the two of them can kind of grow together on the team. I just think that was a cool way to do it. Whether it works out or not, hey, time will tell. And I don't think AJ Green will stay healthy, but history is on my side with that, at least these last couple of years. Looking at some of their other offseason moves, man, they flipped the roster quite a bit this year. They lost a couple cornerbacks, and they signed a few. They signed Trey Waynes, who I think already got hurt, and Mackenzie Alexander. They also brought in defensive tackle DJ Reader, safety Von Bell. The one that I was bummed about, and I know you've heard me talk about this guy before, but finally Tyler Eifert's gone, and it just seems like it was like bad timing because he finally started to get healthy last year, and I'm like, maybe he was ready to finally make it happen, but hey, you can only give a guy so many chances, so maybe he'll thrive in Jacksonville. I'm hoping. I like those Notre Dame guys, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Who's going to thrive in Jacksonville? They're actively trading away all their starters from last year or cutting them. So
I think the answer to that is Gardner Minshew, DJ Shark, and Tyler Eifert, because they're going to be down by 30 in every game right off the bat and just have to air it out nonstop.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I mean, geez, yeah, they just cut Fournette. I mean, the whole thing is a mess down there. It's and I just read something today that they're saying they're not trying to tank because they know that basically the coaches and the GM are all going to get fired. Well, then what the heck are you doing? Like this should be your last hurrah if you think you're that close to getting fired, man. I don't know. All right, so back to Cincinnati. I think that on defense, at least in my model when I built them in, they were surprisingly close to middle of the road on defense from a talent level. I don't know if they'll play that way. We'll find out. Offensively, they got a lot of work to do. They were one of the weaker offenses in my model, but I think some of that is these rookie players. They don't get such a high rating until they get in and prove themselves a little bit. So Burrow could boost that, and I don't want to forget that they got Joe Mixon. Obviously, if AJ Green's healthy, that gives them a boost there. And I think the offensive line is getting better in Cincy. And so I can see this team definitely improving. I would just temper it. I don't see them beating out Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Baltimore. So I still got them fourth in the pecking order. But with Burrow, going back to that, and I know that you're skeptical, so am I. But I got him winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think that it's quarterbacks are favored. Quarterbacks and running backs typically favored with that. When a quarterback wins it, they usually get the Rookie of the Year as well. So I got him getting both. Until I see him falter, I'm going to believe that he is the real deal, and it wasn't just a one-year wonder thing at LSU. But time will tell.
Yeah, and I could see that. Burrow was up there on my Offensive Rookie of the Year, but when I looked at the offense that Edwards-Helaire was in, I saw him. I see him having a ridiculous season this year.
So, well, let's talk about him for a second, because I'm sure you've heard everybody talks about Andy Reid doesn't like to rush his running backs, and that was probably going to be the plan. And then Williams opted out, and so now basically he's like front and center, ready to get the full workhorse load. But it's a pass-first team, and they got a ton of weapons, and so I just wonder, is it just a different way of kind of easing him in, because they can just air the ball out as much as they want, and they don't have to give him more than 10 or 15 touches a game if they don't want to.
Right, but also if you look at it, how with him in college, Edwards-Helaire in college, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, which will boost his numbers. And I see people kind of more focusing on their bigger name people, or bigger name stars, like focusing on Hill and focusing on stopping Kelsey, and Edwards-Helaire coming out of the backfield and getting the ball and doing some damage. Also, if you look at their running backs, they have a bunch of people I've never heard of as their backups.
Yeah, it's going to be all about this guy. Yeah. And hey, I hope he blows up, and I hope I can snag him in a fantasy league and ride that wave.
I'm not going to respond to that, because I guarantee you won't be able to draft them.
Oh, because we're squaring off on Sunday. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, now I know. Mental note. Game on. Okay, so let's jump over to the NFC North then. I'll start off by giving you my projections, and then you give me yours. I've got Green Bay winning the division again. I've got them at 11-5 this year. I've got Minnesota and Chicago tied at 8-8, and then I've got Detroit in last here at 5-11. We did talk before the segment about the recent trade that Minnesota made and how that could affect some things. Obviously, my model was done a couple weeks ago, and so I'm sticking with what I've got for now. But based on the Chicago quarterback situation looking as dire as ever, and the improvement in Minnesota, I would imagine my final rankings are going to be adjusted from here.
Yeah. So I have already adjusted my rankings based on the trade. I have Green Bay again, exact same record as you, winning division at 11-5. I have the Lions at 10-6.
Oh shit!
I hate myself for that pick, because that means they're going to go 0-16 again this year. And
you're jinxing them. Damn you, James! Damn you!
I have Minnesota at 9-7, which at 9-7 is not good enough to make the playoffs in the NFC.
Yeah, the NFC's tougher.
and then I have Chicago at 4-12.
Okay. Well, I guess let's start from the top. And, we both had Green Bay up there. We'll figure out where we go from there. And I'll kick this one off. So with Green Bay, yeah, I mean, they finished 13-3 last year, which I think was phenomenal, especially for a rookie head coach. I've got them coming down to 11-5, which I think is still solid in the NFC. 13-3, it's much like the Baltimore thing. I just think when you have that great of a season, it's very hard to repeat because you're on everybody's radar now, and it just makes it a little bit harder. And honestly, I think LaFleur inherited a really good team, and he coached them well, and that was awesome. But man, I have a lot of concerns about what they did in the offseason this year, and I know I'm not the only one. Yeah, I see the look on your face. But let's just look. They let Balaga go from the offensive line in free agency. They let Blake Martinez go in free agency, which I know a lot of people didn't like that guy. I just thought, hey, last year was a little bit shaky, but the guy for years has been productive. And I don't know, I would have hung on to him. But, either way, whatever. They signed Christian Kirksey, and they thought they were going to do okay at wide receiver by bringing in Devin Funchess, but he opted out. And then they brought in Ricky Wagner from the Lions. But it sounds like he may not even start this year. He's looking kind of like a scrub. And so, free agency was not exactly spectacular for these guys. The draft obviously was a train wreck by going out and taking Jordan Love in the first round and then A.J. Dillon in the second round when both those positions had locked and loaded starters, not just for this next year, but for the next couple of years. And it's looking really bad right now because both those guys are getting a lot of bad reviews. And I think that the one thing saving them is that they don't need them this year. And so they better hope 2021 these guys come to play. Otherwise, we're all going to be looking back like, what the just happened with this team? And so, with all that kind of hanging out there, I know this is one I've told you before, but, this team is sitting at $14 million in cap space last I checked. I think they need to be making a run on Antonio Brown. I think that, you look at Devontae Adams last year, had some nagging injuries. You do it for the upside potential of both those guys being healthy. And I know Brown's got an 8-game suspension, but that means at the end of the season, he's starting to get up to full speed on the team as they make their playoff run. And then, God forbid something happens to Devontae Adams, you've got some serious insurance at wide receiver as you make that playoff run. Not to mention, you're going to appease Aaron Rodgers, who is livid that they skipped over wide receiver in probably one of the most wide receiver rich draft classes we've had in a long, long time. So that's kind of just my little take. I think schedule-wise, I guess, since I'm going on my rant, I'll keep going. I also think their schedule is a little bit harder this year. They got some tough road games at New Orleans, at Tampa Bay, at San Francisco. As long as they have Rodgers, they can compete against anybody. But that's also kind of one of the reasons where I dropped them down a couple games this year.
Well, I'll start the schedule. I have their schedule going from the 10th hardest to the 17th hardest.
Okay.
So that it's actually an easier schedule for them. I think they have an easier schedule this year. Blake Martinez, yeah, you say last year was shaky, but he was still the leading tackler on the team. Christian Kirksey, who had shown promise in 16 and 17, but then the last 2 years he's been having injury problems. If he can remain healthy, he might be an adequate replacement for Martinez, but I don't think it was smart to let Martinez go.
Yeah.
From that defense. I also think it was terrible letting Balaga go. Last year Balaga gave up 3.5 sacks on almost 900 snaps, which, in my estimation, is pretty good.
yeah, I'd say so.
My issue with this team could be so much better if they went out and got weapons for Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But what did they do? They drafted a backup quarterback who apparently is doing shitty in camp. They drafted a backup running back in the second round. Like, what the hell? Why
Well,
not
and
get a receiver? Why not? Yeah, okay. So you thought by signing Funches you got the other side, but this league with Aaron Rodgers, you need like two, three, four receivers that can get separation and catch the ball. You have probably the best wide receiver draft in
it
I
was it
don't know
was
how
phenomenal.
it was
Yeah.
it was stacked. I mean, and you trade up to get Jordan Love.
Oh, I know. And honestly, like, hey, if you were going to let Martinez walk, why not make a move and go after Patrick Queen? I mean, it just like I just felt like this team swung and missed every which way they could have in the draft. And then, the one thing I thought I saw, which I'll have to go back and check, but I thought that not only is Rodgers locked in hard for this year, but he's also locked in hard for next year, where if they cut him in 2021, they got a monster dead cap hit, which basically means not only do you have this whole year where it's going to be awkward with him and Jordan Love, you potentially have all of next year too, where everybody's going to be wondering, isn't Jordan Love supposed to be the guy now? Man, I don't know. Crazy. And I did have, a little bit of a conspiracy theory at one point, which was, hey, maybe Dak will get bounced out of Dallas because they don't want to give him the big contract, and Rodgers can go reunite with McCarthy. But because of the cap situation, I don't see that happening. And we know Rodgers and McCarthy, they didn't like each other much at the end anyhow. But that was, like I said, my quick conspiracy theory thing a few weeks ago.
All right, so I just looked it up while you're saying that Rodgers, if they cut him after this year, the dead cap hit will be $31.5 million.
It's freaking huge.
I mean, even if they cut him after next year, if after 2021, it's still almost $18 million cap hit.
Yeah. So they're definitely not cutting him until the end of next year. Maybe at that point they take the 18 million hit and they move on with life. That's assuming they don't have a ton of other huge dead cap hits.
Exactly.
All right. So what else you got to say about the pack before we move on?
I just I I'm so happy as a Lions fan that they're fucking up the draft, but I feel bad. I feel bad for the Packers that they have management that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it blows my mind, man, especially coming off a 13-3 season. You'd think they'd have their shit together, but these moves are just and hey, I'm sure they're like, "Oh, we're smarter. Give it time. We're going to prove everybody wrong." But I don't know. Right now, everybody's looking at them like, "What the fuck did you just do?"
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens. All right, so you had the Lions next at 10-6,
Yeah.
right? Man,
Yeah.
you just, James, normally at this point of the year, I would be with you, where all of a sudden I'm getting all giddy about the Lions, like, oh, this is going to be it. We're going to kick ass. I don't know. I can't do it this year. They gotta prove it to me that they can do it, and I would be pleasantly surprised if they get there. I don't know, man. It's just been the whole Patricia era has been such a disaster. I can't get on board with it. But tell me what you like, and then I'll give you my 2 cents.
Okay. So last year they were 3-1 when Stafford went down. They lost every game after that.
Yep. So instead of going to 10, how about you put them at 6?
Okay. And I see that. Last year they had the 11th hardest schedule in the league. This year they have the 26th hardest schedule.
Oh yeah, that's a lot better.
Yeah. One of my biggest concern with picking the Lions this high is the more I read about it, the more people I find really hot on the Lions this year, and it kind of reminds me of Cleveland last year.
Okay. Yeah,
As
I don't
being
think we're getting that kind of hype, but yeah, I have heard a lot of people say, "Oh, this is a team that's going from last to first. It's going to happen." And I
yeah.
don't like hearing that shit. It's like, no, dude, come on. Let's not jinx it if it is going to happen. If you even believe in that happening, I don't know.
So being in California, I don't get all the local news and everything, but I've tried to consume as much as I can, and I'm hearing a lot of good things coming out of training camp about this team. Reading a lot of good things about it. The one negative I'm hearing is I'm hearing DeAndre Swift is
Yeah,
not
he's hurt right
very
now.
good.
Yeah. Well, I told you when they drafted him, he just doesn't fit this offense. And it sucks because he was sweet at Georgia, but they're going to waste his fucking talent in Detroit, man. Stafford is not good at throwing down to the running back like that. I mean, every pass is like a fucking rocket. And so I hope they figure it out because I think it'd be a thing of beauty, and I think it would be great for Stafford's career if he figured out how to, take that step in a savvy direction and knowing how to use the running back that way. But I don't know, man. History tells me it's not going to fit. It's square peg, round hole.
Yeah, and I think Stafford was on the list for my MVP candidates this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think assuming he can stay healthy, I think he can have a phenomenal season. Galladay's just getting better.
Yeah.
I mean they're gonna, from what I'm hearing, they're gonna extend him, which is a smart move. Galladay is shaping up to be one of the best receivers in the league.
Yeah, but here's the deal, man. All right, and I love Galladay, dude. I do. I was worried when they drafted him. I'm like, oh my god, where'd this guy come from? I was shocked, and then I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. We finally found a little diamond in the rough here. But they should have extended Galladay before Taylor Decker. I think they screwed that up, and I don't like it. And the team before the Decker signing, they only had like 13 million in cap space, and I don't know where it stands today, but I think that it's going to be tough for them to get the Galladay deal done now. I think it's going to be something that has to wait, which means we're just going to be paying more for him. I've heard somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 million a year for him. Where are they going to squeeze that in, man? They're paying big money to Stafford, big money to Jamie Collins, big money to Taylor Decker. They got Vitae from Philly. He's getting like 10 million a year. I mean, we're starting to get a lot of inflated salaries that I don't know. I'm hoping that works out because I love Galladay, and I like that so far he's not aired his dirty laundry about what's going on behind the scenes with any of their discussions. He's been, it seems like, pretty professional, which is cool. I don't know. Hey, I'm dogging the Lions, man. So like a lot of this stuff, I'm looking at it from the dirty side of the coin, I guess you could say.
Yeah, which is fine.
And here, did you hear about Stafford basically calling out that he's coming for the MVP award this year?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, and so I mean, hey, listen, I love that he feels like he's got a shot. I just hope he makes good on that because Detroit is so desperate for a freaking playoff win, man, that, if Stafford comes out and he gets hurt or the offense falters, and I think if he's healthy, the offense will be fine. The defense should be better with all the moves they made. I don't know. I need them to prove it to me, man. We've been burned too many times. What are you looking at? You researching something here?
I was looking up the cap space, but I can't find something adjusted after Decker. Maybe because it's an extension, it doesn't go into effect because
Sure.
It doesn't go into effect till next year.
Okay. Hey, we'll see. Either way, I hope they get Galladay locked up because, yeah, and I love that Galladay led the league in touchdown receptions last year. I mean, that's, to me, all the stats are great, but you got to be able to get it in the end zone, which he can do. Okay, exactly. So Anything else on Detroit before we move on to Minnesota?
No, I think that's it on Detroit. I really hope I'm right.
Listen, James, I hope you're right too, man. I don't know. The more we talk about Detroit, the more at some point I'll get pissed off and just go to negative town. I want them to win, man. I really want them to win. Man, I don't know. Everything about this team just rubs me the wrong way lately.
Well, hell, I even have them winning their first playoff game since 1991 this year.
You're a son of a bitch. Why you even say it, dude? Why you even say it?
Well, because we're gonna get into the playoffs in a minute, so I figured I'd let that let that sit on there, so you're not don't get really pissed at me when I say it.
Okay.
Then,
All right. Hey, it's fine. I'm gonna take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in fantasy, and the Lions are gonna win a playoff game. Sure. Sure. All right, Vikings. So, yeah, they finished 10-6 last year. It's weird because if I didn't double check that they went 10-6, I would have thought that they were like an 8-8 or a 9-7 team. I would have thought that they lost a few more games because it seemed like there was always some talk of dysfunction or how much people hated Kirk Cousins. And it was like, geez, for all the shit people were talking, this team was fucking winning games, man. And it just blows my mind. It's like the exact opposite of like the Lions. We're dysfunctional, we're losing games. This team, like, they're fucking things up somehow and they're winning. I mean, it's just like, how does that happen? But I like the Vikings. I like Zimmer. I like Cousins. I think that they rotated a lot of faces on defense. Linval Joseph is gone. Trey Waynes, Everson Griffin, among others. I think the Ngakoue trade that they made helps. I think that was huge for them. And then they franchise tagged Anthony Harris. That was a smart move to lock in, arguably one of the better safety tandems in the league. I think that this team, they have potential, and I want them to be better than where I have them ranked. I just, I don't know, man. I think that there was a little too much turnover on defense, and it's going to drop them down a little bit. Offensively, you lost Diggs. I get it. They brought in this rookie, Justin Jefferson. He's getting a lot of hype. But I think that does hurt him a little bit. Dalvin Cook is always an injury concern. I don't know. And then on offense, I know that a lot of people are saying, hey, Gary Kubiak's the offensive coordinator. They're just going to pick up where they left off because he was overseeing it all last year anyhow. I look back, though, to his time in Houston, in Denver, and I got a feeling, whether it's just my sneaky little hunch here, but he's going to pass more, man. They passed a lot in his time as head coach and offensive coordinator elsewhere. Maybe not, we'll see. But, hey, I like the Vikings. I just think they're going to come down a couple games. I think, when you go back and you look at all the dysfunction that they had, that same thing can creep in very easily this year. And, at some point it'll bite them in the ass, man.
So with Minnesota, I think actually getting rid of Diggs was addition by subtraction. I think a lot of the dysfunction was caused by Diggs last year, and I think without him, without that distraction, this passing game can take a step forward. Because I think that Diggs was always crying that he wasn't getting the ball, and then at times when he got the ball, when they were passing to him, he would drop the ball. So what's the point in passing to him? So I think that's where this passing game will go from. Last year, the passing game was the 23rd, ranked 23rd, which is terrible. So I think it'll take a step forward without Diggs. My issue with the team is their schedule is a lot harder this year.
Mm-hmm. So look, with them being 23rd in passing last year, I don't really think that's that bad for how ridiculous they emphasize the run game. I mean, dude, So many of those games I watched, it was like, okay, first down, we're going to run. Second down, we're going to run. Oh, crap, it's 3rd and 8th. Hey, Cousins, try and bail us out. And he did a great job for the most part, but they were putting him in a bad position all year because all they wanted to do was run it down everybody's throat. And it worked a lot, but it doesn't work all the time. And, I think this year, I think Kubiak will be smarter. He'll mix it up a little bit more, which will definitely have more success through the air, even without Diggs, like you're saying. But I don't know, man. I know Zimmer is on the record somewhere last year harping on Cousins, and it's like, well, some of that is like he's a product of your own creation. When you do that to a quarterback, where we're not going to let you throw unless it's 3rd and long. Sorry, well, you're setting the guy up to have a very tough road. But hey, I think he did very good in the role that he was in. And we've seen the history of Cousins. He's a very accurate passer. He's gotten better every year. They can trust him, and I think Kubiak will do that with him this year.
Yeah. And with Minnesota, I really love the Ngakoue trade.
Yeah.
I think Everson Griffin. If you look at Everson Griffin and Ngakoue's stats over their career, just looking at over their career, Ngakoue is averaging almost 2 sacks more a season than Griffin is.
Okay.
And Ngakoue is a lot younger, so going forward, he can be the corner. He can, assuming you can re-sign him and fit him on the cap, which he took. From what I hear, he took $6 million less just to get the hell out of Jacksonville.
He did, yeah. That was a big move.
Yeah. So I'm just curious what the hell is going on in Jacksonville with that.
Yeah.
But it's terrible for him because going forward for him, his starting point for negotiation is $12 million, not $17 million.
Yeah.
Or whatever it would have been. But I think he will be that piece that they can revamp the defense around and focus on him as being the cornerstone of this defense. I think Minnesota is trying to rebuild without
blowing it up. Yeah.
Right. Their strength of schedule last year was in the bottom third of the league. And this year it's in the top 10.
Yeah, I saw they got some tough games, man. They got at Houston, at Seattle, at Tampa Bay, at New Orleans. I mean, those are the kind of games that Cousins for sure has been knocked in the past for not being able to win those hard road games. And that's one of the reasons I got him regressing a little bit this year. I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah. But we also have to remember with Cousins, he finally broke through last year in the playoffs when he went down to New Orleans and won the game, which is the only time that New Orleans didn't actually have some lucky miracle happen or get robbed in the last 4 years from making the Super Bowl. I think they're going to rest. I actually bumped them up. I had them at 8-8 before the Ngakoue trade, and I bumped them up 1 win.
When I talked to you before, you sounded pretty excited about Minnesota. I'm surprised that you had them at 3rd in the division. But, hey, you're getting all high on the Lions, whatever you want to call it, and we'll see, man. We'll see how that plays out for you.
Well, no, I was high on Minnesota, and I still am high on them. I just think that their schedule this year being so high and hard, and how hard their schedule is, I think that is what takes them back. If they had a similar schedule to what they had last year, even if they had like a 12th or 15th strength of schedule, I could see them being. I would probably have leaped them over Detroit, but I just think that schedule is going to be a lot to overcome, especially with Kirk Cousins' history.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I'll tell you one thing I did like about this team, and it might sound a little bit weird, but when I was looking at their offseason and specifically at the draft, they had 15 freaking picks in the draft, man. That's a lot of fucking picks. And, here's the thing. I think in the draft, I think a lot of it, if you can accumulate picks like this and take those shots, I think it's more power to you because that's 15 darts that you're throwing out there. And who knows, man? Maybe you unlock like some hidden gem that's out there. And, hey, they drafted Michigan State's defensive end, Kenny Wilkes. I think, I'm not saying he's the guy. I'm a Sparty, but, I just think that the idea of taking all those swings, one of them could pan out to be a sweet later round pick. And that's good, especially when you flipped your defense as much as they did this year. You need to have a lot of guys to look at and say, man, can somebody step up because we might have a hole. And I just thought it was a good way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, we good there?
We're good.
Okay, so last but not least, in the NFC North, we got the Chicago Bears. Okay, so I've got them basically repeating at 8-8. Honestly, my repeat thought was that with Foles coming in, whether it was Foles starting or him putting the heat on Trubisky, they might get some better quarterback play. And so I thought, okay, 8-8's possible for this team. Other than that, man, I think they're really struggling on offense. The defense is still legit. I think it hurts them that Eddie Goldman opted out, but they still got Khalil Mack. They still got a ton of weapons on defense. I don't know. My final power rankings, I'll probably have them drop down a little bit, but for now, hey, I got them 8-8 here. I did like the Robert Quinn signing, by the way. They had to pay a pretty penny for him, 5 years, $70 million. But it seems like he's just kind of been floating out there in the league, and nobody wants to commit to that guy long term. And he's been productive, so power to them for locking him in. And then they landed Cole Kmet in the draft, the guy from Notre Dame. One of the million Notre Dame tight ends. Most of them don't make it, but I have hope for this guy. It may not be this year, but I don't know, man. I got these guys ranked as my number 2 defense. And so I think that even if their offense is bottom of the barrel, they could be carried by the defense to an 8-8 season, much like Pittsburgh's defense carried them to 8-8 last year. The difference is that, Nagy, man, he's really an offensive-minded guy. He's got to make something happen. Last year was a catastrophe. And with all the stuff I'm hearing about Trubisky and Foles, it looks like it's going to be pretty rough again for them this year. So I don't know. We'll see. What do you think?
My biggest issue with them is quarterback. It was quarterback and lack of receivers on offense. The only receiver they have is Allen Robinson.
Yep.
They went out and picked up Ginn, who in his 14th season or 15th season, last year had just over 400 yards, which would have ranked him behind Tariq Cohen as the fifth leading receiver on the team.
Yeah, and they barely even used Tariq Cohen last year.
Yeah. Now they traded for Foles, and then they realized in camp that Foles isn't better than Trubisky, which is not a good sign.
Yeah.
So
here's what I heard. Okay, I heard that basically Trubisky is all over the map. His throws are so inaccurate, it's like horrible. But he's trying to take shots. I heard Foles is the exact opposite. He's being so conservative that he doesn't want to turn the ball over, that everything is like these little dink and dunk passes, and it's not enough to get him moving into a rhythm, that they need him to actually take a few more chances, and he's just not doing it.
Yeah. And I hadn't read much into it. I had seen it right before we started that they were going to name Trubisky as the starter at least for week 1, which according to everything what I saw on the reporting is he might as well just forfeit the game to the Lions. That's how bad it's going to be.
Hey, maybe we finally get a week 1 win. It's been a while.
Oh, we're getting a week 1 win. Playing Chicago.
I like your confidence. I just can't echo it because it's the fucking Lions, man. I'm wearing the Lions shirt if you can see it. I just, I don't know, dude. They just bum me out sometimes. I just want them to win, and they just never do it.
Yeah, and if the Bears had some semblance of a quarterback,
Yeah. Well, here I'll tell you
I think
this:
they could be better.
if Chicago was smart, okay, they would go out and they would find an undrafted rookie quarterback and have him start against the Lions, okay? Because the Lions in week 1 can't beat teams with rookie quarterbacks. We saw it last year with Arizona. We saw it the year before with the Jets. Those were supposed to be 2 easy wins for the Lions, and we fucked them both up. So that's the key for Chicago to get at least a tie in week 1.
Yeah, I, I have no response to that.
Yeah. You're like, shut up, dude. I know. I'm. This is like I said. The more I talk about the Lions, the worse it gets. The more irrational I get. The more off the reservation I get. That's just how I feel, man. They have made me crazy over time. It's not like a normal team, dude. They get your hopes up and then they crush them every year, and you know that. But
Yes.
you're excited about them. I don't know. It's because you're breathing that fresh California air. I don't know how the wildfires are, if that's all sorted out now, but something's making you feel very good about the Lions, and I don't know what it is.
It might just be optimism.
Yeah,
Uh,
wishful
but
thinking.
yeah, wishful thinking possibly.
No, I mean, hey, man, they've got 87 Patriots players on the team now. So if they're going to win, it's got to be now. I mean, what else can you give Patricia? So we'll see. All right, but going back to Chicago, one thing I think worth pointing out, which, man, I was a little bit blown away to see this, but Khalil Mack is counting 26.6 million against the cap this year. I mean, that is insane for a non-quarterback, man. And I love Khalil Mack. I just when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money, man.
Hold, how much is he counting?
26.6. That's his
Good
cap number.
Lord.
Yeah. That's big time, dude. Big time. Now, other than that for Chicago, I think their offseason was fairly quiet. They didn't have a first round pick because of the Khalil Mack trade a couple years ago. And so instead, they had a couple second rounders, which I think they did well with Cole Kmet. I think that was a good, smart second round pick. And then I think Jalen Johnson, the cornerback they picked, that was another smart pick in the second round that's going to help them. So I think with the limited ammunition that they've had, they did well with it. Free agency wise, hey, they signed Jimmy Graham. I think that big whoop. I think he's way past his prime at this point. The other tight end that they signed, I'm more excited about, which is Demetrius Harris. I think at the stages of their respective careers, he will be more impactful for this team this year. But really, it's all about the future with Cole Kmet. It's just that they got to give the young tight end a little bit of time to get there. A lot of tight ends, they just don't come out banging from week 1. So we'll see how it plays out. Final thoughts on Chicago.
I just see them as a terrible team. I like their defense, but they need to do something. They need to do something on offense. They need to do something and get a better quarterback in there. There's no reason why you're stuck between a career backup who got a hot streak to win the Super Bowl and Mitchell Trubisky, who I probably could play quarterback better than. Although I did read a stat about Mitchell Trubisky, is he puts up he puts up more than 22 points a game on defenses that are ranked 20th or lower against the pass.
Okay. So he can beat the bad teams, is what you're saying.
He can beat the bad teams.
Well, hey, thank God for that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, hey, we were more in line with the AFC tonight than the NFC, and I hope you're right that the Lions can finally do something. But hey, we burned through. I thought it was pretty cool that we did this 4-part series looking at all the different divisions. So as we had talked about before, the plan for next week basically is going to be Friday night. We'll provide our finalized, adjusted power rankings, looking at everybody. We'll just kind of burn through it. We don't really have to go too deep on any team like we did these weeks. And then we'll give our picks for week 1, which I'm thinking we're just looking at who's winning straight up. I'm not going to try and look at like the spread or any of that stuff. I've never really been a big gambler with the sports stuff, but just a simple win or loss, I think, is the way to go. And if there's any significant news or special topics we want to talk about, we'll squeeze those in there too. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so for anybody who's still watching, thank you. We appreciate it. We'd love to get some more comments on our board, and we definitely love to get some people to subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking, because we're going to keep doing this. We're having fun with it, and the more we hear from you guys, the more we can kind of change things up and maybe say a few more things that you want to hear about. So that's all I got for now. James, I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you later, man.
All right, sounds good.
All right, bye.
Gridiron Grinder, hut hut hike.